It's Tuesday, my name is Guy, you're watching Off My Bridge, and we're back! Yes, and I've had a wonderful break, and it's inspired me, because over the course of my break, I played a series of Star Trek games, and I have to say that they were a lot of fun. Except that I learned a few things, and that's what you're going to be learning over the next few weeks, exactly what I took away from playing those games. Now, as you've already seen in the thumbnail, we are looking at revising the leveling rules for Star Trek Adventures 2. And the reason is that my folks were playing our game and we were trying to basically have a mission every day, and we played for 3 days. So at the end of every day, we were trying to do the level progression thing. And it became very obvious that unfortunately, as much as it's an interesting system, the current one, in my opinion, just isn't fun. So how do we fix it? Because there's no point in complaining if you don't have a solution. And so this is my solution. Before we get into it, just remember to hit that like button or the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. And of course the bell button to announce you when new videos are dropping, which will be weekly from now on as my schedule has returned to normal. Right, so the very first step that we start with is undoing one of the fundamental challenges that I think character creation suffers from within Star Trek Adventures 2. One of the things that I noticed when you start playing is that you can choose your rank when you're creating your character. This effectively nullifies the entire concept of having rank on the starship. Yes, everyone wants to play a lieutenant commander or a captain. I understand why they designed it this way. Everyone wants to be the heroic crew. But unfortunately, that means that there's very little scope for the characters actually advancing. And if you think about the number of times that we've seen characters actually being promoted in the show, it's a handful of times over decades worth of adventures. So that's not particularly fun. So step number 1 in fixing the leveling system is that if you and your players want to have a good game that extends over time and that feels as if there is progression happening and character growth happening, aside from those milestones, of course, then this is what I propose that you do. Firstly, no one gets to start higher than an ensign. You're going to be playing lower decks for the first couple of adventures at the very least. Now, there's a couple of things that come with that. It means that no department can be higher than rank 3, and no attribute can be higher than 9. How are we going to achieve this? Well, firstly, you cut out both of those life-changing events episodes that we currently have in character creation. They're just dropped. Remove them. Those life-changing events will now happen through gameplay. So rather than just hand-washing, oh, I saved an entire alien race, no, you didn't. Not yet. Anyway, you will, given the opportunity. So what this now does is that your character is now at a lower level, at lower attribute numbers and department numbers. This means that the chance of failure is higher, but it's only through failure that we learn how to improve. If we're just passing everything, why are we bothering rolling dice? As DMs, it is our prerogative then, and our responsibility to make sure that the assignments that the characters are going on and the away missions that they're doing basically don't ever have a difficulty number higher than 2, maybe 3 at a push. But with only a 60% chance of success on any given roll, the players are at quite the disadvantage at this point in their careers. You don't want to make them completely fail everything. You do want them to succeed here and there. Think of extended tasks with a difficulty of, say, 1 and a resistance of 1 or perhaps no resistance at all. Those are the ways in which you're going to make the game still feel as if everybody is challenged and running at their maximum, but also not overly denying them any kind of progression whatsoever. Another thing that needs to be done is that the maximum dice pool is reduced from 5 to 4. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, but it does mean that the players can only buy up to 3 extra dice. The ship still contributes, but the ship's contribution is now a little bit more meaningful. I don't know if it's just us, but so far I would say on average that the ship's contribution to helping with tasks, most ships generally don't contribute unless you're flying a sovereign class or higher. The lower ships, the earlier ships, the smaller ships, with an average of 9 or 10, maybe 11 to any kind of assisted roll, It's not really helping, is it? Now, as the characters level up, they're going to have the opportunity to spend all of those wonderful acclaim points that they gather. That's still in place, as is the milestone leveling. I love the milestone story arcs. I think those work really well. What we need to do, though, is now reflect upon the questions that are being asked. And, well, I've rewritten all of them, both the positives and the negatives. And the reason for it is, although the current questions that are being asked are probably the more accurate questions that Starfleet would actually be asking its officers, they don't inspire an interesting play. And certainly if you look at Kirk or Sisko or even Picard, most of the time they'd be getting a lot of negatives as opposed to the positives. So leveling becomes almost impossible, and doing anything that is remotely dangerous becomes problematic for the crew. So instead of trying to prevent the players from having a fun time, I think it's about asking different questions. And these are my questions. So when it comes to the positives, these are them. Was your mission successful? Did you follow orders and Starfleet regulations? Did you look for or present alternative solutions to your superiors or fellow crew whenever a solution was needed? Did you help your fellow officers? Did you place others before yourself? Were you an example to others? Have you filled in your personal log? Now this generates 8 potential yes answers, or 8 positive points. I purposefully moved away from questions like, did you put anyone in harm's way? Or did you escalate violence? I took those kinds of questions out because there are times when violence is necessary. Even the Vulcans agree that this is sometimes an outcome. So being penalized for having to resort to violence, I think, is the wrong way to establish how this game should be running. Yes, it's more in keeping with Starfleet, but I think that the nature of the inflexibility of the questions merits having questions that are a little bit broader. Note that some of the questions that I'm asking there are more about, were you as a player working with your fellow players? Were you trying to help each other? Were you trying to promote each other? So it's about promoting good gameplay at the table rather than were you sticking to the directives? Were you doing this? Were you doing that? Again, this is my opinion on how to improve these results rather than to stick with what's currently there. Now, as for the negatives, what are they? Did you defy orders or regulations to make it easy to move forward? Did you lie, cheat, or intimidate anyone for personal gain or to make it easy to move forward? Did you endanger or harm your fellow crew or innocent living beings for any reason? Did you kill anyone for any reason other than self-defense? Did you encourage others to reckless or foolish actions? Did you stereotype, prejudge, or make assumptions about others before engaging with them? Were you prejudiced or judgmental about a different culture, cultural custom, or attitude? At any point in the adventure, did you act without permission from a superior officer? Now, these questions, I feel, are much more open-ended in terms of how they can be answered. And once again, it's about promoting teamwork and promoting clever thinking. Rather than take the easy approach of, oh, well, I just intimidate him. Well, have you tried finding alternative solutions? It is one of the benefit questions that you could answer is that, yes, I did. Or, you get a negative for not trying to find the easy way. But you still succeed in your mission, so it gets offset. The idea between the two sets of questions is that they're 8 apiece, so they're equitable, and, well, quite frankly, you can end up with just a flat 0. Anything is better than ending up with multiple negatives, and I think that this balances it out a little bit better than the current system. The equation, then, is that each of the positive answers is mitigated by a negative answer, and that will result in a total value, a plus or a minus. Hopefully it'll be a plus. Then, in order to work out how many dice the characters roll, they take the number that this positive and negative has resulted in, 1, 2, 3, potentially all the way up to 8, but that's highly unlikely, and those are the dice they roll. Now, the difficulty number that they're rolling against is 8 plus their current reputation. And their reputation, by the way, is always starting at 1, not at 3. What's the point of starting halfway through the track? So they start at 1. So that means in order to gain any acclaim, their base number is 9, which is not difficult at level 1 anyway, or at ensign level. Any successes are recorded as acclaim, and acclaim is spent as normal, except for a few little things. In order to gain a rank, it is no longer a fixed 3 value. Now it is on a sliding scale based on the rank that you are trying to attain. There are 8 ranks in Star Trek, and they are Ensign, Lieutenant Junior, Lieutenant, Lieutenant Commander, Commander, Captain, Admiral, and Fleet Admiral. As you increase your rank, you pay the amount of acclaim equal to that rank. So, to move from Ensign to Lieutenant Junior, you pay 2 acclaim. To move from Lieutenant Junior to Lieutenant, you pay 3 acclaim, and so on. Now, every group of 3 increases your maximum die pool. So, from 4, it goes to 5 the moment that you have any kind of lieutenant commanders running around. Again, that shifts to 6 if you have an admiral floating around. The idea of having a bigger die pool simply means that it becomes a lot more challenging for the players. Bear in mind, as the characters are advancing and spending that acclaim to buy extra attribute points and department points, it's going to get easier and easier and easier for them to advance. There's also no more of this maximum of 4 in any one department. You can now buy department increases as per the acclaim spend up to 5. There's no point in capping that at 4 anymore. This allows, I believe, for players to sculpt characters that are much more a reflection of the adventure that they have been playing through, and as a result of their role-playing experience, rather than having these pre-made characters which arrive with a 5 in one department, a 4 in another, and the rest are basically washout skills. Here, the player is adjusting and adapting to the game as well as to how they personally feel and grow. What are your thoughts on improving the leveling system? Do you think that it works perfectly? Does your group find it a lot of fun to play with as written? Let me know in the comments down below. Perhaps there's something that I've missed, and I'd love to learn and find out, and perhaps even implement it. Anyway, these are my ideas, and of course the patrons will get a full breakdown of these rules at the end of the month. You can find the Patreon link down below. Next week, we're going to be looking at a time travel misadventure, which I need to give you some feedback on. So until next week, I wish you and yours long life and happy gaming.